Hello everyone, this is Jimmy and welcome to episode 36 of FTB Interactions. Today, hopefully, will be wetware processor day. To get here, however, we have a lot of intermediate steps left. So I noticed there are two wetware processor recipes, and the one in the assembly line just seems to be strictly worse than the one in an assembler. The assembly line takes an extra component and twice as much fluid, and marginally more power compared to the one in the assembler. So, I guess we'll make them in an assembler then, because the assembly line is going to have a lot of jobs as it stands. The only thing in this recipe that we can't make, actually, is a neural processing unit. However, this is going to take us down a bit of a rabbit hole. Alright, so we're going to need a couple new fluids, sterilized growth medium, distilled water, and UU matter. Two of these are easy. Distilled water, you distill water. Ooh. And UU matter we already make for our ore duplication. Sterilized growth medium, however, is going to take a few more steps. That's made from raw growth medium, and I'm being harassed by spiders again. You think I should have done something about this earlier, but I just shoot them when they come bother me. Alright, let's take a look at raw growth medium. So, distilled water, sugar, salt, and mincemeat. Mincemeat is pulverizing, I guess, any type of stuff like beef. And I can pulverize raw beef to get pulverized ground beef. Okay, let's set up a couple pulverizers to do that. I think I have plenty of raw beef and other raw animal products from our peaceful mob farm here. In fact, we have, 1,300 raw beef. That should be enough for now. In total, it takes 6 machines to make sterilized growth medium. From the beginning, we have raw beef being pulverized into ground beef. This is a doubling operation, so each raw beef gets us 2 ground beef. Then we grind it again. I think this is a 1-to-1 operation. 1-to-1. And that's mincemeat. As for sugar, I take beets and centrifuge it to make sugar and veggie bait, and then I'll just void the veggie bait once it fills up a cache. The sugar will stop the machine once the sugar drawer fills up. Then, let's see, distilled water. It's just water in the distillery. There's a water pump underneath that. And tiny piles of salt. Oh, I skipped a machine, so 7 machines. Unfortunately, I don't have a great renewable source of salt. What I'm doing for salt right now is I'm just mining it. So here in the water, we find these. Nope, that's sand. Here, this is salt, and I just mine that, and it's a fair bit. And we only need tiny piles, so I think this is fine. Well, I think I can process my brine slightly differently to get salt out of it instead of. I don't actually know what I'm getting out of it. But, yeah, our salt's not completely renewable, but it's good enough for now. Anyways, all that together goes into a mixer. There's a limited item filter to provide the items. The fluids just get put in here, the distilled water. Then that gets mixed into raw growth medium, which gets heated into sterilized growth medium, and we'll put a storage bus on this. Alright, one challenge down. We're going to have to provide these fluids to our assembly line. So UU matter, distilled water, and sterilized growth medium. I guess I don't have a storage bus at our UU matter tank. Not yet, at least. Alright, that's fluids taken care of. I noticed that this second recipe here too, but I don't know why you would ever use it. It is no easier to do. Like, you still need stem cells, even though it doesn't look like you do, and you only get 1. And it uses more power. So I see no reason to do the one that only outputs 1. I guess this one doesn't use UU. No, but it basically uses UU matter. It uses positive and neutral matter, which make UU matter. Whatever. Fluids are taken care of. Next, let's pin all the things that are non-trivial here. Silicon rubber foils, stem cells, and wetware boards. I don't know which order to start in. I guess let's do the boards. These are probably the easiest. So this is an assembler with the boards we already make. These are tier 2 circuits. Ha, easy. And polystyrene. Let's make polystyrene. I think we already have styrene from this manufacturing setup, right? Yeah, this makes styrene, so all we have to do is polymerize it to make polystyrene. I assume that's just the process of adding oxygen. Indeed, that's all it is. Styrene plus oxygen is polystyrene. We can also add titanium tetrachloride to increase the yield a bit more, but I don't think that's necessary. Then the polystyrene gets shoved into another assembler, where on demand I will craft these wetware life support boards. It's, I guess it's a little slow. It's about 8 seconds each, but each one board ends up making 8 neural processing units, right? Yeah, okay, no, I think doing it on demand's fine. Does anything else use polystyrene? Let's take a look. Polystyrene, at least not in fluid form. Doesn't look like anything uses it in the other forms as well. All right. Anyways, so that covers the boards. Next, let's do silicon rubber, I guess. I was kind of hoping not have to make silicon rubber because this is a lot more chemistry. But we need polydimethylsiloxane dust, and there's a couple different ways to do it. Oh, this looks easy. Water, chlorine, methane, and silicon. Makes, yeah, because we have methane, we have water, we have chlorine, and we have silicon. Okay, let's do this method. This process does create some fluids that I could take the hydrochloric acid, undilute it, and then reclaim the chlorine, but I think it's just easier to make more chlorine, so I'm going to throw the fluid out. Now this dust, I think this has to be chemical reacted again with sulfur to make silicon rubber fluid, and then this can be turned into bars. Right? Yeah, it can be solidified into bars, and I guess, yeah, metal bendered into foils. I think I'll set it up such that our assembly line runs up to silicon rubber plates, and then I'll turn them into foils on demand because the foiling process is extremely fast. It's, what, 0.37 seconds per 4, and that's at LV, whereas this actual recipe, I think we run it at HV. So, yep. Why is this stopped? I guess chlorine. Maybe I should reclaim the chlorine. Eh. I'll revisit it later if we have a bunch of other things that use chlorine. Anyways, this is making silicon rubber, and we already have 2.5 stacks. Turns out you can't turn hydrochloric acid back into hydrogen and chlorine. So I actually can't reclaim the chlorine from that hydrochloric acid. Oh well. Next up, let's look at making stem cells. So this process uses life essence, sugar, which we just automated, eggs, which we can get from chickens, soy milk, which I guess comes from soybean, I presume. Yeah, processed soybean a couple times. And infinity reagents. Can we craft these on demand yet? I don't think I've put this recipe in, but there's no reason we can't make this on demand. Right? Can I can just pulverize obsidian? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, let's put in, oopsies, the recipes for stem cells. It'll take a couple mixers. Actually, I already have a life essence mixer, don't I? Mixer, life essence, HV. Is HV enough? Yes, but it takes 40 seconds at HV. And we need how many? 1 per board? Let's set up another mixer then at, maybe I'll even go IV for this mixer because of how slow this process is. This is very likely going to be the bottleneck in our crafting. So yeah, let's set up an IV mixer to handle this. Right now, our life essence production is just about exactly the amount we need to keep our rituals running, which, while that's perhaps sufficient, it's not exactly great for giving us a lot of extra life essence to craft with. So let's see about improving our life essence production. To do that, let's get some ritual stones, and I don't know how many I have left. In fact, you can see I just had some nausea there from slightly underproducing life essence. So it looks like I have 28 ritual stones. We're going to need a bit more than that. I want to do the ritual that produces life essence from killing mobs. fact, I'm getting nausea a bit more often than I used to. Before I started this segment, I get it about once every, I don't know, 5 minutes. I get it for a second. Let's turn these rituals off then until we can improve our life essence generation, because that nausea effect is really distracting. The ritual of culling will kill mobs and generate life essence for us, and we need 36 runes for that, so we're a little short. How many reinforced slates do I have? Reinforced. Hey, I think we have enough. So I need our blood orb. I guess I'll going out of the altar. Let's make reinforced. Yep. And then we need to turn one of these into a master ritual stone. And let's set up the ritual. So I think it's designed to be placed a couple blocks above your altar. Maybe, I don't know if it's exactly 3, 4. That looks like it should be fine, right? That's not intersecting with anything important. Yeah, let's build it there. So just right click with that until, with the ritual diviner on the master ritual stone until it builds, or until it puts a block in your way. All right, we'll need to activate the ritual, but before we can do so, we do have to recharge our life essence a little bit. So let's get our orb back in the altar. Magician's orb. I guess I can craft a higher tier orb soon too. Anyways, we'll get that recharging. Now this has to actually kill mobs to have an effect, so we also need a mob spawner. We got a Wyvern Core upgraded stabilized mob spawner from a quest reward. The Mark of the Falling Tower quest reward, which I guess is nice. The Draconic Core one, I think now it rewards a Wyvern Core spawner, but at the time when I claimed the quest, I didn't get a Wyvern Core. Which one is Wyvern Core? Which one's Draconic Core? I can hardly tell. This one's Draconic, right? The Draconic Core behaves kind of like a vanilla spawner. It doesn't spawn mobs unless you are nearby, whereas the Wyvern Core will spawn mobs as long as it's sufficiently dark, I believe. So I need to build a dark room above the ritual stone. The area that the stabilized mob spawner spawns mobs in is very similar to a vanilla mob spawner. So it's an 8x8 that's on like the northeast corner or something. I just always build 9x9 rooms with the feet at as far as 1 block below to 2 blocks above the spawner. So you make sure you leave enough room for the heads to spawn in, obviously. And then you have to click a mob soul on it to make it start spawning. I'm going to use the system glitch soul that we got from a quest reward because this drops glitch hearts, and those can be used to ow, don't shoot me. Those can be used to increase our blood production a little bit more. Do I have one more dark ineffable glass? I do not. One short. All right, let's make one more. Time for everyone's favorite, unstable ingot crafting. Thankfully, it's not all that difficult to not explode when you do unstable ingot crafting nowadays. Alright, let's make a half stack of unstable ingots. That should do. Or, sorry, of dark ineffable glass. So that makes it dark, so that they should be spawning. I suspect, yeah, my Astral Sorcery perks likes to put light sources there, so I'm going to have to go back there and get rid of that light source soon. But to activate this ritual, let's grab our awakened activation crystal and go. Oops, not enough life essence. All right, let's accelerate then. Accelerate you and you to get more LP in our network. If I had to guess, I'd say this is a 50,000 ritual, so just beat 50,000. Well, it was a little bit more than 50,000, it turns out, and I just died. Whoops. That's my first death in a really long time. Alright, well, let's get my stuff back, I guess. Huh. Whoops. Not only did I die, I managed to die in a spot that I can't get to. What? Wait a second. Does the ritual of culling kill players? It kills anyone that's low on health. And I'm low on health. This was an unexpected outcome. I'm actually kind of at a loss for what to do. I can't walk near my ritual without killing myself, and I need to get my stuff back. I think I need to grab one of... And I can't turn the ritual off without getting near it. Do I have weaker TNT? Can I make dynamite 1? No, I want dynamite 1. I cannot make dynamite 1. I can only make better dynamite. Alright, well, let's dynamite 3. And if I blow up some of the ritual stones... Is that my head floating there? I guess so. If I blow up some of the ritual stones, I should turn the ritual off. But that doesn't break blocks. This is really awkward. Alright, I've come up with a plan. I have to craft a new astral tome so that I can access my perks, and take a sealing sigil to seal or disable this inoculation perk. How do I do it? I drag it to here? There we go. With that perk sealed, I now have hearts again. Alright, now I can grab... Let's get some food to eat. And I'll have to drink a regeneration potion to get my health up. And once I have more than a couple of hearts, I think I can walk over there and get my stuff back without dying. I'm starting to regret building my altar in a way that I can't actually get up it without scaffolding blocks or flight. This is there we go. Alright, so once I get that, I have my angel ring, so I can fly here and get this inventory. And now I have all my stuff back. But apparently my inventory is now full of other things. I also did get my 35th Astral Sorcery point just a couple minutes ago, so let's put it here into the Jellu Focus perk. That gives it basically gives us what, 103 times 35, so like 115% perk effect. Right now, what is our perk effect? 55. So yeah, it should give us more runic shielding. I can unseal this at any point by double clicking it or whatever, and it gives me my all my runic shielding back. However, why don't I just not unseal it so I can actually have hearts, so that I don't die to my own ritual here? Anyways, this ritual is running now, right? So the mobs here should be getting killed, which they are. And you see those glitch hearts they're dropping? We can set up a wireless collector to collect those hearts and send them into the digital mob agonizer here, so I don't have to use... I mean, they're better than extraterrestrial matter. As I mentioned, the effect of summoning those mobs is twofold. First of all, corrupted glitch hearts bump up our multiplier here to 3.8. I think the glitch heart itself provides 3? Yeah, 3.0x multiplier, and then 8 runes give 0.8. They give 0.1 each for 0.8 total. So our blood altar now has, well, I guess a bit more blood. Unfortunately, these mobs still, this spawner doesn't spawn them very quickly. Although that is probably in part because so much of this area is still lit up. Let me get rid of some of this light. If I get rid of the... Oh, that was a mistake. It looks like I have to seal my Miner's Delight perk as well, because my perk is placing the light sources through the ceiling, even when I'm not in the room. So let's pop that one, pop this one. There we go. And now the orange color, yellow color means that it's dark, which should mean more mobs are spawning. I'm not actually 100% sure though. Yeah, that's definitely making a significant difference. Every maybe 10 seconds or so, I get a large infusion of life essence when those 5 to 8-ish mobs spawn and die. So between the increased output of the agonizer and getting a little bit of blood from killing mobs, I think we can turn all these rituals back on, and it won't, for one, it won't cause us to periodically get debuffed, but it'll, well, don't pick this up, but it will still produce enough LP to both power our rituals and power our crafting. I can still add more runes to this later to make to make everything more efficient, but I'm gonna leave it at this point for now. I've been trolled enough by my own blood magic mistakes today. Moving on from that disaster, we should now be able to request stem cells. So yep, gonna ask for 100 just to test it out and make sure the system works. But infinity reagents and stem cells looks like, I mean, if it can craft, yeah, if it can craft one, it can craft 100. All right, that's stem cells taken care of. So I think, what's left? I technically have not automated glass tubes. Let's do that really quickly. I guess it's about time I built a sand generator. Still not building a full cobbleworks. I mean, I have cobblestone and sand, so I guess all that's missing is gravel. Meh, whatever. I'm using the Astral Source 3 cobble or sand gen. So liquid starlight touching lava makes sand. Sand falls on a torch, becomes a block, gets picked up into a barrel. This is about as simple as sand gens get, I guess. Anyways, I just need a storage bus on this, and then we can use the sand to turn into glass tubes, and I guess I may as well do regular glass while I'm at it. Oopsies, almost forgot to put the void upgrade on the barrel. If you don't put a void upgrade on your the thing that collects that sand, you're gonna cause a whole lot of lag when the item entities start piling up. With a sand generator in place, I can then fluid extractor sand into glass, and then distribute it one into an assembler. I don't have recipes in here yet, but there's like a dozen assembler recipes that use liquid glass, and then some gets turned into glass blocks, and some get turned into glass tubes. And I just store an iron chest of each. It's a pretty arbitrary amount, but whatever. Anyways, with that, I think we're ready to encode the recipe for neural processing units. So if we use this recipe here, yeah, let's encode that and put that into our assembly line and try it out. So if I request 1, it should make 8. Oh, I don't think I ever taught it how to make the board. I set up, wait, no, I should have. Let's go double check. I thought I encoded this recipe. Aha! I did in fact encode the recipe, I just didn't plug the machine in. Whoops. How many channels am I on this line? I know I was getting pretty close. 30. Alright. So, yeah, I basically can't expand this anymore. So I added another EV line right here. This was initially, I was planning on extending this over and making it HV, but I figured if I need more HV, I can extend both this line and this one. So I have plenty of room to expand HV. Anyways, let's try that wetware again, or that neural processing unit at least. Yeah, fire. And we expect to see the assembly line kick in pretty soon. See if items fill the shulker box. There we go, items come in here, they get distributed, and the assembly line turns on. Haha! It's pretty quick too. Once this is done, which it almost is, then we should have neural processing units. Nice. Now to turning those into wetware boards is done in an assembler. Specifically, it has to be in our ludicrous voltage assembler. So let's, I don't know, can I make 30 of these? No, I cannot. It does not know how to make fine YBC wire. Easy fix. Once again, 30 of these. Haha, wow, only 1400 bytes. Go. I guess those are stem cells from earlier. These actually take a long time to craft. I'm glad I made it at Ivy, because even at Ivy, they're slow. Let's actually cancel that. Alright, well, looks like it's crafting. That's to craft a bunch of sub-processes to make it, but it's running. Oh, and there's one. In fact, we've made 2 already. Grabbing it should complete the quest, which rewards us 2 more. Aha! Since I can make wetware processors now, I should take any recipe that uses crystal assemblies and swap them out. Unfortunately, the search bar doesn't actually search the ingredients, it only searches the item name. So that makes it a bit less than useful. So I have to try to find any recipes that use this and swap it. At this point, we only have the basic wetware processor. There's actually 4 tiers of them, all the way up to the wetware mainframe, which is used for like the Mark III fusion computer. But let's start with the Mark I fusion computer. That only runs Minecraft apparently, but that only uses the tier 2 wetware processor. So this recipe, I think we can actually just straight up encode and do without having to register anything else. I should have plenty of leftover RAM. And it is assembly line with solder. All right, let's try it. So assembly line, and what is its voltage tier? ZPM. Unfortunately, our assembly line is not a ZPM assembly line yet. However, that's pretty easy to fix. If I just swap out more of these energy input hatches with IV in, so I need a total of 16 amps of IV in, so that's 8. So I need 6 more IV input hatches. With a total of 8 IV input hatches, now we have a ZPM assembly line. I still have to actually plug them in, of course, so that they actually receive power and can work. And now let's try making that wetware assembly. Was it like 3 of them for the fusion computer? Well, the craft started. That's a good sign. And in fact, there's nothing here that I should get hung up on. Should almost be crafting. Aha, there we go. And our next wetware assembly is on its way. I wonder, we do have a quest for it, but it's currently blocked by not, let's see. I guess I have to make the ZPM machine hull. Okay. Making the machine hull lets us check the checkboxes and unlock this quest. Oh, the rewards aren't quite as good as I had hoped. I was hoping we could get more wetware assemblies from the reward. Alas. I crafted 3 and I get 0 more for my troubles. While encoding the recipe for the fusion reactor computer, I realized that while it uses 10 different items in the assembly line UI here, I'm pretty sure you're allowed to put the processors into the same slot. So it doesn't actually use 10 unique item inputs. That makes registering the recipe a little bit simpler. At this point, we're pretty close to making the fusion computer. Let's see, we're missing the high power integrated circuits and a couple neutron reflectors. I also took a look at the quest for it, and I noticed that, where is the quest for it? Not in this tab, apparently. This quest actually only asks us to make 16 superconductors and 50 casings. It rewards us with the rest of the superconductors and casings, which is pretty nifty. I usually don't check quests ahead of time, so I would miss out on this. But this time I did, so aha. Anyways, making those high power integrated circuits, the wafers are made a little bit differently. I guess we take a normal power IC wafer, mix it with indium gallium phosphide and red alloy. This is 2 ingots of red alloy, so I believe this is the only chemical reactor recipe that uses red alloy. So instead of stocking, in fact, it's basically the only recipe that uses fluid red alloy. Instead of stocking a whole bunch of fluid red alloy, I just send ingots as part of the recipe and then melt them down just in time, basically. I melt down the ingots and then send all that over to a chemical reactor. The Phosphorus for indium gallium phosphide is actually the thing I have the least of. I have some phosphor ore, which this can be processed into phosphor dust and then yada 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 process all the way down, but that's pretty inefficient. There's actually a pretty clever thing you can do with phosphoric acid, which results in an infinite amount of phosphorus. So, well, you could just straight up electrolyze it. You get phosphorus dust and hydrogen. But what you can do, instead of stopping here, so start with 7 buckets of phosphoric acid, that makes 4 phosphorus. You take this and then you chemical react it with water and oxygen. No, this one. With just oxygen, you get, so per 4 phosphorus dust, you get 14. So per 7, you get like 20-ish. It's a little under double this, right? Let's call it like 22 maybe. And then this you can chemical reactor with water to get a lot more phosphoric acid. And this loop produces your choice of phosphoric acid or phosphorus dust. And all it costs is a little bit of water and oxygen input. So yeah, I'm going to go down this road and make, I guess, some phosphorus for us. Now, I think we have a starting amount of phosphoric acid because our ore duplication setup uses or produces some. I forget what step it is. This one, I think? Yeah, we have 64 buckets of phosphoric acid from there, so I'm just going to nab that tank, put a new one there, and use that to kickstart our phosphoric acid loop. I started with 64 buckets of phosphoric acid. That's all been used. There's 1 bucket left. However, by going through this process just with the 64 buckets to start, I've reclaimed the 64 buckets I started with, and I have all this phosphorus pentoxide dust left over. So what I'm going to do is then just, let's see, that's an item conduit. I need fluid conduits here, but I'm going to send this right back to the beginning and let this process repeat. So let's extract on the blue channel here, insert blue here. This will refill with phosphoric acid, which produces more phosphorus. Now, if I let this process run for a couple of minutes, I'll eventually have it backed up, presumably on phosphorus here. It also, a byproduct here, produces a fair amount of hydrogen, but I'm just throwing it out because I already have another source of hydrogen. The bottleneck here is probably going to be my oxygen. My oxygen production is probably just a little bit insufficient to run this system because it consumes 10 buckets of oxygen per operation here. Phosphorus demand in this pack seems pretty low. In fact, aside from using it to make these high power IC wafers, I don't see much else that we need this for. So maybe I won't worry about my oxygen production not be able to keep up with this over a long period of time because we won't have to run this system for a long period of time. Anyways, as things start backstuffing, eventually the phosphorus dust will backstuff in here, and then once the items backstuff, then that should stop this process altogether. Sorry. I'm going to grab a stack of it now, though, and just put that in my RME system so that I can see about crafting that fusion computer again. I know there's one more step it will definitely get stuck on, and that is, yep, just the neutron reflectors. Good. So the neutron reflectors, though, I noticed there's something pretty weird about them. They have 2 recipes, but one is a strict subset of the other. So this assembler recipe uses less or more plates, but less tin alloy. This one uses less plates, but a lot more tin alloy. So I guess it's not a subset. However, I don't know how to tell the assembler which one to do. Because if I tell it to do one or the other, right? Or if I just put all the materials in here, like the materials for this, I don't know whether it'll pick this recipe or the other one. So I think I'm just going to test it out once and see which one the assembler prefers to make. This is the type of recipe where the program circuit would do something, but alas. Of the 2 recipes, I would rather use the one that uses less tin alloy. I think making the tin alloy is actually going to be the bottleneck in our process here because these ingots take forever to make an alloy smelter. I mean, it's not forever, it's 5 seconds for 2. But the fact that this uses so much tin alloy, 13, that's a stack and a half of tin alloy ingots, means that it'll take a while. So I'm hoping that if I put the materials in, if I put enough fluid and items for both recipes, that it'll pick this one. If not, we'll make do, but it does. Okay, that's good news. Then all I have to do is set you, and yeah, I can register a recipe that uses this recipe instead of this one. This 4608 millibuckets of tin alloy is exactly 32 ingots worth. So I'll just include 32 ingots in the recipe and then distribute the alloy to be fluid extracted and then the rest of the items into the machine. Oh, whoops. Wait, why are you not taking the items out? Oh, because I didn't plug you in. A recurring problem. All right, now with that, we should be able to request the Fusion Computer Mark 1. Looks good. That's quite a few bytes, but go. And hopefully it doesn't get stuck anywhere. A lot of subcrafting steps. I did not realize this recipe for high power IC wafers takes a minute each at EV. Thankfully, we have the time in the bottle to help us out. The Fusion Computer bits should be coming into this shulker box in just any second now. One more cutting saw operation and off they go. I just want to make sure that it's willing to run with all four it's willing to run with all four processors in the same slot. So I don't know why JEI shows them in different slots. But once this is done, we can grab our Fusion computer. The other components, let's see, the casings and the superconducting coils are also being crafted right now. So 50 casings. The Fusion computer itself. And a little bit more superconductors being crafted. This should do it. Quest complete. Ha. Alright, let's get our quest rewards and then set up the fusion reactor. Where to put it though? It is a pretty big thing and it uses a fair bit of power. Maybe this corner? This corner seems like a fine place for it, I guess. The entire reactor is 15 by 15 if you count the outer dimensions, and the preview function is hugely helpful for building this one. So start from the bottom row, I guess. Basically there's a layer of superconductors in the inside and then just a bunch of casings around it. And I think these are energy inputs. Did the game actually give me energy inputs? I didn't get any, huh? Alright, I should make my energy inputs then. Small correction, the energy input hatches are the ones on the middle row. And then the other regular fluid and item, or I guess just fluid inputs, go on the top and bottom. Anyways, for some reason, he says invalid structure, citing the controller being in the wrong spot. Not quite sure what that means. There we go. The problem was that I didn't have a input or output hatches, which I guess are required. Makes sense. Anyways, the way I have it set up is with 2 input hatches because, well, you fuse 2 fluids. 1 output hatch, it produces 1 output. The inputs have to either be on the top or the bottom layer. The output has to be on the middle. And then in these 16 positions where I have energy inputs, you can have anywhere from 1 to 16 energy inputs, but each one that you have contributes, I think it's 100k EU to the starting value. So this number here, this 16 million, is the maximum starting EU for recipes we can handle. So for example, this helium plasma uses, 1, 2, 3, commas really help you. This uses 40 million EU. So we shouldn't actually be able to start this recipe. Was I off by, no, this is 160 million EU. Okay, so we can do all recipes that have a starting EU of 160 million or less. So in theory, we cannot make nitrogen plasma because 180 million is greater than 160 million. In practice, however, I believe that GregTech is still bugged to ignore this value. I'm pretty sure you can actually do all these reactions in a Mark 1 fusion reactor. I'm not going to test it. I'm just going to assume that I'm going to treat it as if it works as intended. One thing that I noticed that is kind of interesting, the recipe for neutronium is only set to 1 million EU, which does mean that we can do it in a Mark 1 fusion reactor, which I guess is kind of cool. Anyways, I want to use this fusion reactor though to make power. So to do so, we're going to have to make one of the forms of plasma and then run that plasma through a plasma turbine. Of the plasma types available to us, I think oxygen is the easiest one to produce, and it'll, through a turbine, generate 131 kEU per millibucket. That's actually quite efficient. So oxygen plasma is carbon and helium-3. Carbon just comes from melting down carbon ingots. So we have plenty of carbon dust from our egg centrifuger, or our mineral crystal centrifuger. It's conceivable that, right, this is a system we set up, like one of the first systems we set up in this space. It's conceivable that these basic centrifuges aren't fast enough, but if we need more carbon, that's a very easy problem to solve. And then the other thing we need for this is helium-3. The hard way to get helium-3 is to centrifuge helium, because the ratio is awful, right? It's what, 80 to 5 or 16 millibuckets to 1, but it's very cheap to make in a replicator, because it takes, 3 millibuckets of input matter make a whole bucket of this stuff. So let's set up a replicator to make helium-3, and we can set up this fusion reactor as a power generator. Let's get a molecular separator started now to make 1 bucket of helium-3. You need the first bucket in order to replicate it. Now this plasma, let's see, every 1.6 seconds it uses up 125 millibuckets, so times 8. What's 1.6 times 8? Somewhere around 6. Every 6-ish seconds we have to make a bucket of helium-3. I think that's doable at HV. Yeah, so I'll use the HV replicator to make our helium. Almost at a full bucket. I also turned off the input of helium to this thing, because once I get my bucket, I don't really need this machine to run anymore. Anyways, we'll take our bucket of helium, put it here, and this replicator starts making liquid helium. And it's really, really, really cheap. For the carbon, I'm just taking carbon dust, passing it through an electric furnace. I could have used a multi-smelter, but meh, this is much smaller. Anyways, I take those ingots, turn them into fluid. Now, I am actually thinking our carbon production is probably a little insufficient. It uses 125 millibuckets per 1.6 seconds, or about 1 ingot per 2 seconds. One ingot or 1 piece of dust. And I don't think our system here, wherever it is, produces 1 dust per 2 seconds, right? Because it takes a little. Okay, this is basic here, so I can just tell you how long it takes to process. It takes 10 seconds to process, but it's only a 25% chance. So I might need a better carbon source. I'm sure I'll find something. Turn charcoal into it trivially easily. Oh well, I'll cross that bridge in a little bit. But this now means I have both fluids necessary to power our fusion reactor. With helium-3 in one input hatch and carbon in the other, I think it'll turn on as soon as I give it power. So it's powered up and it is starting to run now. So as you can see there, while you need all 16 input hatches to get the maximum EU storage in your thing, the recipe actually does seem to ignore the energy to start, because it started immediately. It didn't charge up to however many million this was. 80 million? It didn't charge up to 80 million and then begin, because even now it's not at 80 million. This recipe also only drains 4,100 EU a tick, so 1 amp of input LUV energy is more than enough to sustain the reaction. So in the output then comes our liquid oxygen? Hold on, is that oxygen, or is it's supposed to be oxygen plasma? Right? Oxygen plasma. Am I getting bamboozled? Let's try storing it in a tank. Okay, the tooltip says oxygen. It actually is oxygen plasma. That's good. I would have been very sad if I was getting trolled by my nuclear or my fusion reactor here. Well, would you look at the time? let's leave things here for now, producing oxygen plasma, and we'll come back next episode, put this plasma to use, making actual energy, and we'll deal with our inevitable carbon shortage at that time as well. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.